I hear this so commonly, like you are a person, maybe you are in your mid 30s and like everybody you know is married or having kids or buying houses and you're not. This can feel very lonely, particularly if you are trying to get your relational needs met from people who are not available in the same way anymore, or who are doing things that there's like fewer points of connection. This can feel really bad. And so over the course of this episode, I am going to be giving you a number of actionable things. My hope for this time together today is that you walk out of here with some new ideas and be like, okay, I have some things to try that are going to help you. So there are going to be 5 actionable things that you can use ASAP that are going to focus on different parts of this. Feeling better about yourself, feeling more calm about your stage of life, but also feeling closer to other people, because that's really, really important too. I'm Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and this is the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast, which is all about helping you do just that. Have better relationships, more joy in your life, and also get clear about your career, your professional path, because that's a big part of life too. I'm a psychologist. I am also a marriage and family therapist, a very proud board certified coach, and I'm the founder of Growing Self-Counseling and Coaching. And so this show is here to help growth-oriented people like you evolve and become the very best version of yourself. And so that's one of your goals. You are in the right place. And if we are not already friends, let's be friends. Connect with me on Instagram, Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby. And also just take a sec, make sure you're following the show in your podcast app so that you don't miss a thing. If you have thoughts or feelings or questions, or just want to reach out and say hi or submit a topic idea for the show, look for the Let's Talk link in the show notes every single time to connect with me immediately. And so you and I can stay on the same page. Now, on with the show, where we're talking today about feeling out of sync with other people when it comes to stages of life. And this can happen to all of us. I hear from clients all the time. I've experienced this personally, where you are maybe feeling like you're still trying to get yourself figured out, right? Like, who am I? What do I want to be with when I grow up? Where do I want to live? You know, like still figuring out the relationship thing. And you are watching your college roommate on social media posting about their kids' preschool graduation from the kitchen of their own house that they own, right? With the husband that they've been married to for 8 years. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm still ordering takeout for one, or like figuring out like, if I wasn't doing this job anymore, what would I do? And thinking about whether or not kids are even in your future, right? And this is just super common. It happens all the time. But what it can start to feel like is that you are in this singular emotional territory, particularly if you're part of a friend group, a collective, you have old friends, and if a number of them are going through the life milestones in a very organized way, the long-term relationship, the engagement, the marriage, the house, the baby, like in that order, and you're not, it can start to feel a little bit weird. And one of the things that typically happens here is that it can begin to erode the sense of connection that you have with people who in other phases of life had been very, very close to you, right? Like the people that you felt like you could call and talk to about what was going on with you. And they were always like, me too, right? Like they got it. They understood. They were ride and die people. And all of a sudden, they are experiencing very, very different things than you are. They are dealing maybe with different stressors and feel like perhaps you can't relate to them, and vice vice versa, right? That you are jetting off to Italy or Ibiza for a long weekend, like music festivals, and they are sitting at home with 3 kids under the age of 5. And like, there's a disconnect on both sides of that, right? I mean, they're probably might be very envious of aspects of your life if you're the one who has more time and space to do your own thing, but that can also happen the other way around too. And so this episode is all about navigating this for, if you feel like maybe you're mid chapter while everybody else is getting to the end of the book, or other way around. And also talking about the reality that we can hit speed bumps in our lives. Like we're kind of on track doing the same things as all of our friends, but we have life circumstances that change the story. And so over the course of this episode, I am going to be giving you a number of actionable things. My hope for this time together today is that you walk out of here with some new ideas and be like, okay, I have some things to try that are going to help you. So there are going to be 5 actionable things that you can use ASAP that are going to focus on different parts of this. Feeling better about yourself, feeling more calm about your stage of life, but also feeling closer to other people, because that's really, really important too. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to put in front of you, and this is an actionable idea, is related to this comparison trap. And this is so easy to fall into, even if you're not consciously aware that you're actually doing it. And I see this so often. And this, I think, certainly can be perpetuated by social media, but I think it can also be more than that. I mean, if you have a group of old friends and you have 8 people in your group chat and 7 of them got married this past year or bought a house recently, it doesn't have to be just social media, right? It's just a reality. And it also goes back to this, I think, ideas that are fomented by the culture about, air quote, the way things should be, and that life follows a timeline. By your late 20s, early 30s, you need to have a career path figured out. And by certainly 35, you should be married, hopefully thinking about or having kids. And by 40, you are homeowner, halfway to retirement. I mean, there are these milestones. And the thing that is also true is that there is no correct timeline for any of this. The reality is that all of us make life choices through our filter of our values, and that we index different things as being important. So that is one thing that needs to be honored and respected, because what is true for you is not maybe true for your friends, and vice versa. And then the other thing that is a reality is that there is a certain element of 2 things. I mean, certainly people are actively working towards important life goals based on what is most important to them, and they are creating outcomes because of that. But there is also a certain degree of luck involved with this that I think doesn't get enough airtime in the conversation, and that maybe even if you want some of the same things that you see other people around you having, you might have had to deal with circumstances that created differences in your life in the terms of the timing. I mean, people deal with health issues. Not every relationship works out. People get laid off from jobs, and that sets them back in their ability to do things like buy a house, or the economy changes. People have support from their families sometimes that make some of these milestones more attainable, and that is not true for everyone. And so when we look at what other people around us are doing, it's very important that we hold on to this reality-based narrative that looks at the entire context of who we are and what our life circumstances have been. And so one important actionable thing I would love to encourage you to do is to go a little bit deeper and think about why what you are experiencing makes a lot of sense. And start by thinking about your values, because that can be really important. You might have people in your life who have prioritized other things based on their core values. They really wanted to have a stable career that afforded them the ability to get into a home, like that kind of thing. Or maybe they really, really wanted to get this long-term relationship thing locked down because they knew they wanted to have kids and have this vision for their life, and they made that happen. And that's great for them. Mazel tov, right? But think about, if you are in a different space, why that makes sense from your values perspective. Like, so for example, this is a personal share, but I hear stories like this all the time from my clients. But personally, my husband and I had really strong core values around traveling, and neither of us really wanted to sit in a house in the suburbs. So we didn't. We actually lived fully nomadically in an RV for years because that kind of lifestyle was more in alignment with our values and the things that were interesting to us and what we really wanted to do. And that was fine, except I still, even then, even though these choices were intentional, had so many moments where I would like hear about what my friends were doing and, these things that we weren't doing because we had chosen to be like vagabonds around home ownership or stage of life stuff, or feeling like they were advancing in their career, which in some ways was more on hold for us because we were busy blowing in the wind. And it was fine, but I mean, I did have these moments of anxiety every once in a while. Like, oh, I hope this is okay. But had to talk myself through that. It's like, no, we decided to do this for these reasons, and being comfortable with that choice, even though we were in some ways, air quote, behind once we in terms of what our friends were doing. That was also true for me with my career. I mean, I wanted to do a PhD program, you guys. And so I was still in school when many of the people that I had gone to undergrad with were in very stable career paths that they had been doing for 10 years while I was still messing around, like taking classes and student loans and all that jazz. So, I mean, like, there are reasons. And so you can even just pause me here for a second if you want to do a little bit of thinking or journaling that starts by asking yourself the question, yes, this is where I am in my life right now. And it is different than what I see people around me doing right now. And why does this make sense from a values perspective? Like, I have chosen to do XYZ instead of what some of my friends are doing because, and like fill in all of those blanks to think through it and develop a little bit more compassion for yourself, and perhaps even some gratitude and validation for your own life choices, because that can be a really important buffer that will help you get out of that comparison trap so that you're not feeling anxious about what it is that you have decided to do. And then similarly, I also want to just validate the fact that you might be living in a life reality right now that you feel like you didn't consciously sign up for. And that is extremely valid. That happens to people all the time. But fill in the blanks of that story too. You know, I am at a space in my life where this is what's going on. This is different than what a lot of my friends are experiencing. And the reason why this is my reality is because my husband died, right? I had to take care of my sick parent. I got really sick, or I lost my job, or my relationship ended. There are so many reasons why people get knocked off the life trajectory that maybe they had wanted to be in. And that needs to be respected and honored and validated as well. Because I think having that compassionate, reality-based story around why it actually makes a lot of sense that this is my life right now can also be huge. It does not necessarily change anything, and you might still be motivated to change it, and that is okay. So we don't want to push away dark emotions or be like, oh, I shouldn't have any feelings about this. I shouldn't feel sad about this. No, that's wrong. Feel sad. It's absolutely okay to want something different. But what isn't helpful is beating yourself up about this or comparing yourself to other people in a way that is self-critical. The goal here is to reconnect with self-compassion and be like, yeah, it makes perfect sense that I am in this life space right now. I wouldn't have chosen this path, and here I am, and I'm not going to be mad at myself for it, even if I do want something different. Okay, so that is the very first step that I wanted to put in front of you as to how to shift the mindset and shift the way of thinking about this so that you feel more in alignment with yourself. We are just turning that view inward right now instead of outward. But the second thing that we need to talk about and do something about actually is related to the experience of having friendships drift when it feels like you're out of sync in the stages of life with other people. And, you know, I think it's the reality for all of us that our friendships can feel kind of magical when we're walking on the same path. But when there's that fork in the road and they go one way and you go the other, they have like 7 kids in a minivan and you're living in a truck camper, like all good, but it's different, right? And it changes the context of the relationship because your life paths have diverged. And this can sting and it can be a challenge for relationships, not because anybody has done anything wrong, but because you are inhabiting life experiences that are just really different. There's a lot of comfort that comes with being in sync with people. And when we are having life experiences that are honestly sometimes very different for another person to understand, that can create some distance. It has the potential to, and it doesn't have to. And I'm going to tell you how to reconnect here. But it also does need to be said that there can be a grief in this, that there can be a loss related to that very easy closeness that you once experienced. There's this mirror of shared ease, right? When somebody else is having pretty much exactly the same life experience, like you don't have to go into a lot of details. They get it, right? And this can hurt, especially if you've had that kind of closeness with somebody or a group of people in the past. And I think what makes it hard is that it's one of these ambiguous losses, right? Like you're still you and they're still them. And there's that shared history and the fact that you still really like each other. But there's this like new lack of understanding might be the best way to say it. This thing that now makes it harder to connect, that is really real, and that it's okay to grieve that and to honor that loss, and also to talk about it. And so sometimes this is related to a different just life space where you're like, I have never had anything like that happen to me in my life. And okay, so there's that disconnect. But also many times what can come with this is a change in how available people are. And I see this and I hear this happening frequently with people around the kids, family, even career type things, because prior to acquiring a home, becoming married, having kids, a bigger deal job, I think that there can be a lot more freedom in life. People can have more time, more energy, more bandwidth for, it's awful to say, but even for friendships, than is frequently true for people who take on all of these things that require a lot of time and energy. And I think that oftentimes the desire for people in these more intensive life spaces is absolutely still to have close and connected friendships. And that's something that I hear about frequently. And that's sometimes actively mourned by people who feel so overwhelmed with all these other things that are pulling on them, be it a 18-month-old or a job where they have to travel all the time. There could be a lot of different things, but it's like they actually lack the capacity to go on a 4-hour hike on a Sunday the way that they might have with you back in the day, right? And so that is a loss that actually needs to be grieved as well, is not the desire to be friends, or, maybe when you talk, they're still like, oh my gosh, and all these points of connection that feel great, but feeling like your friends are less available for you than they once were. Or on the other side of this, feeling like if you have, 20 ropes tied to you that are dragging you in different directions, and you are going to bed at midnight and getting up at 5 to try to manage your job before you have to get kids out of bed, and you have this old friend who's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time, how are you, that can also feel like this, because you do love them, you do want to spend time with them, you do care, and feeling like trapped in your own life a little bit. And that is not a good feeling either. And it is okay to grieve that freedom, that bandwidth. And so now here, you guys, what we're talking about in the second step is more ephemeral, right? But we're talking about the need to validate and honor the grief about these losses. And while that might not sound actionable, I would like to assure you that it absolutely is. And so to create a little bit of space, even right now, while you're listening to this podcast, if you're in the car, you're out on your walk, turn me off for 2 minutes and allow yourself to connect with the fact that the way that the relationship that you're thinking about right now has actually changed, and how there is a loss to grieve. That is okay. And by just even making contact with those feelings and allowing yourself to be like, yeah, you know what? I am actually really sad. This is a loss for me. I'm going to feel this for 2 minutes, can in itself be experientially transformational. Even if nothing in your life actually changes, your ability to sit with this feeling and have this be okay and honored and recognized counts so much. And bonus points if you want to reach out to that person that you're thinking about right now and say, I miss you. I loved how close we were, how much time we spent together, with the best memories. And I know that we have some barriers right now that are preventing us from being able to connect in the same way. But I just want you to know that I still love you. And I think about you all the time. And I'm sad. And I'm also okay. Like, you don't need to do anything. Nobody has to do anything. I love you. That's all. And there can be something really healing and bonding about that. Okay. So that is the second idea that I wanted to put in front of you. But wait, there's more. Now, the next thing I want you to be thinking about and doing is actively working on any judgment you might be harboring. Judgment for yourself, certainly, but also judgment that you might have for others about their life choices, and also what to do if you are experiencing judgment from other people. Real, or I don't want to say imaginary because other people might be judging you, perceived judgment. So there's 3 parts of judgment: how we judge ourselves, how we judge other people, and how we experience and or internalize judgment that we feel is directed at us for other people. And the goal here with this exercise is just bringing it out into the light, starting with any judgment that you might have for yourself, and being aware that this could look like a lot of different things. It takes so many forms, and people always do this to themselves, like really no matter what their life choices are, which is why we need to be so aware of it. This is why we talk about this so much in evidence-based coaching, by the way, as well as sometimes therapy, particularly if entrenched feelings of judgment for self or others can lead to things like anxiety or depression. Like, these can be some of the thought patterns that lead to mental health conditions, but also even in a coaching type environment where people are coming in, they don't have a diagnosis necessarily, but they're experiencing some type of life dissatisfaction. We oftentimes need to go into these areas of judgment to shine a light on them, understand what they are, and then talk about how to do a little bit of course correction when it comes to that headspace. So first of all, when it comes to judging yourself, let's talk about this. And the way this works, you can just open up a sheet of paper, open up a notes app on your phone, a voice memo, does not really matter, but at the top of the page, or start the whatever with, a fill in the blank sentence, which is, I have been judging myself for fill in that blank. And you might have 10 things that you're judging yourself for. I am judging myself for rushing into marriage and kids and actually not spending enough time in earlier stages of my life traveling and having a good time. And now I regret it because I feel a little bit trapped. Or I am judging myself for not working harder to improve a relationship that maybe I shouldn't have ended, because if we had worked on it, I would probably be married right now and thinking about having kids. And now I'm still, trying to get that figured out. And I'm judging myself a little bit for some of the choices that I've made. Or like me, I am judging myself for the fact that I am living with a 3-year-old kid at an RV park as opposed to in a house for extended periods of time. Like, there is judgment there, right? I am judging myself for, that I spent many years pursuing a creative career. I am a musician. I am an artist, and I worked a long time to make that happen. And here I am now, and that didn't go the way that I wanted. And I see other people who maybe aren't that passionate about their accounting jobs, but they are in these careers, they are advancing, they have positions of responsibility. And I feel like I'm back to square one a little bit. And I am judging myself for that. And so, whatever those things are, just write them down to bring them into clarity, bring them into visibility. And then think about, again, going back to that very first thing that we did, but why does that make sense? And have that be a bit of a counteraction, tying it to your core values. I am judging myself for XYZ because I am at a place in my life where I'm recognizing that I really do want fill in that blank, right? And what value is that connected to? I really do want a family. That is a value. And this exercise, we're not trying to get rid of self-judgment. Okay. We are always, and if you've listened to the show more than once, this is not the first time you've heard me say this. We are always here to make friends with our dark emotions. We do not try to get them to go away or make them stop communicating with us, but rather understand, what is this feeling trying to tell me? And what would happen if I listened to it? So if you are I am judging myself because of X, then tie it to the value. Oh yeah, this thing really is important to me because that gives you direction. That becomes actionable. I am realizing that I really do want this thing in my life, and that, my friend, can turn into a plan to make it happen. That's what we do in coaching. And so I just wanted to put this concept in front of you so that you have something to do with a self-judgment that will wind up being very productive for you if you then turn that into I'm going to make that happen kind of energy, because that's what I hope we could create for you. But of course, there are more kinds of judgment, and that is also the judgment that we might have for others, and to think about how that could potentially be an obstacle for some of these relationships, particularly if you're not fully aware of it. And so if you are feeling like you'd like to be closer to some of these old people in your life, think about if you are harboring any judgments about their choices that make it difficult to connect in an emotionally intimate way. So, yeah, they're traveling all the time. They're not investing in the community and the relationships and the things that I have. And I have feelings about that. And just notice what those are, or the other way around. I don't know that I want my life to revolve around preschool pickups and minivans and all these things that I see my friends doing who are in this more settled phase of life. And just note, do you have judgment around that? And this is also not anything that you need to feel bad about or guilty about. Everybody harbors judgments. It's part of the experience of being an earthling. But what's important is that you just notice it and then correct that so that you are not energetically coming into moments when you do talk to these old friends in a place where maybe they can feel or sense or experience your subconscious or internalized judgment for their choices. And so the way that we deal with this is as soon as you're aware of what that judgment is, go back to your notebook, your notes app, your voice memo, and being like, I have been harboring judgment for my friend's choice to do X, Y, Z, and I know that they are really happy for the following reasons. They are following their life plan. They are living in alignment with their values. They are dealing the hand that they got dealt. And I have a lot of compassion for that. That could also be really important. But being able to find a more compassionate viewpoint, they made the choices that were important to them because XYZ, or they are experiencing this life because of all of these really good reasons. And I want to be the kind of person who has compassion for them, or be the kind of person who is genuinely happy for them, that they are living the life that they want to live. And bonus points if you can connect with a tiny little bit of envy that might be fueling some of that judgment. Because in my experience, that can oftentimes be the case. Other people are judgy about other people. There's sometimes, and this is hard to get to, but it can be very, very illuminating when you are this tiny bit that's like, I kind of wish I had that. Right. And so whenever we can connect with those softer feelings, and then, talk to your friend again, being like, what? I just wanted to tell you how happy I am for you that you are doing this. I know you talked about it for years. I think it's so great. I don't understand parts of your life anymore, but like, if you ever want to talk to me about it, just as a sounding board, I am here to smile and nod and try to understand and experience this with you because I love you. I'm so happy for you. And I want to be in this with you. Like, that's great. But you have to go into this in a genuinely non-judgmental space. And sometimes that can be hard to do. So those are two parts of judgment: a judgment for ourselves, judgment for others, but then also what do we do in those moments when we experience people as having judgment for us? And, I struggled with this a lot. Like when we were living in the RV, and doing all these things, I would have friends who were like, wow, yeah, and what has been interesting is that since then, I think, just to share, I think at the time I internalized that, they have judgment about what I'm doing because they would not have made the same choices. And maybe they did have some judgment. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from them, certainly. But I have also had friends come, back years later and be like, that was really cool what you guys did. I wish that I had done more stuff like that in my life. And the other way around, I have had those conversations with people who have done different life choices than I have, and they're like, that's really cool. So I think maybe sometimes it can come out in the wash. And I just wanted to say that as somebody who has lived through that and then the other side for a period of years. So that is the thing. But it's also, I think, sometimes hard to know what to do when we experience somebody as having feelings about our life choices. This could be true for friends, especially, and how to address this. And so I think it depends. I think sometimes there can be wisdom in allowing it, because I think many times when people are confronted with people who are living different lifestyles or on different timelines, people are allowed to have feelings about that. And it's understandable. And I think having ownership for the way that you might be feeling about their life, that I think can help you get some compassion for like, okay, yeah, we all do this. That can reduce the emotional angst. But I think too, sometimes you can broach a courageous conversation, particularly if it's a friend that you want to have a more intimate relationship with, and to be able to say, sometimes when we talk, I am aware of the differences in the phase of life that we're in right now. And I feel like it can definitely be harder to connect. But sometimes I also worry that there's a part of you that maybe has some negative feelings about the choices that I've made, or that worries about me, or that thinks I'm on the wrong path. And is that true? So we don't want to accuse people of being judgmental, but be curious. Is that true? Do you feel worried about me? Are you concerned about some of the choices that I've made? Because also, you guys, let's be honest, when we experience judgment for others, I mean, if we go really deep down into the emotional core, particularly if it's people that we care about, it's oftentimes rooted in these noble intentions. We are actually concerned for other people. Like, oh, I hope that's going to be okay. She's living in an RV for years. Like, oh, I hope that's going to be all right. And to give people the opportunity to talk about that, if that is how they're feeling, right? I think that can lead to emotional intimacy, a great conversation, particularly if you have the ability to not get defensive or feel like you need to be like, well, here's why I'm doing this, right? And have it actually turn into a connecting conversation. I have a number of other podcasts in my library that speak to some of this. So related to defensiveness, emotional intelligence, how to have courageous conversations about things that feel hard. And so I would refer you back to some of those if you'd like to beef up your communication skills in advance of these courageous conversations. So, okay. So we have talked about 3 important things when it comes to stages of life differences and how to manage them. But let's go to the last 2 briefly. One of them is, I think, one of the most powerful and important. And this is going back to the need for all of us to be cultivating new relationships all along our lifespan. I think one thing that can make it really hard for people who are feeling a lot of disconnect with others in their lives due to being in different places is often related to the fact that they have like groups of old friends and have not yet developed a new social system full of people who are on the same trajectory that they are now. So, for example, I hear this so commonly, like you are a person, maybe you are in your mid 30s and like everybody you know is married or having kids or buying houses and you're not, you are not, right? That this can feel very lonely, particularly if you are trying to get your relational needs met from people who are not available in the same way anymore, or who are doing things that there's like fewer points of connection. This can feel really bad if you are not actively seeking to develop new relationships with people who are more similar to you in your phase of life. And this is incredibly important. Now, it is challenging to make new, particularly emotionally intimate relationships as an adult. I have a number of podcasts on this topic. There was a wonderful one I recorded last year with a journalist. Her name was Kelly Stout. She did a fantastic research study on herself about how hard it is to make friends as an adult. And I hate to use the language hard because that makes it seem like impossible, and it is not. But it does require energy and intention, and it also starts with thinking about who am I now, and who are the kinds of people who I would have a lot of things in common. And this could be based around hobbies. It could be based around the fact that perhaps both of you have old friends that have moved on and are maybe not on the same trajectory and are looking for travel partners, people to go on hikes with, or just, have dinner with on a Saturday night, because the old friends are now riding around in their minivans watching kid movies on repeat, like that kind of thing. And so thinking about who am I? What is the type of person that is like me in this phase of life? And how will I connect with them? And then putting some energy into that. And I will also say this is incredibly important. Like I have a bunch of content in my heartbreak recovery program and in my divorce with kids program, because, it's one thing to be sort of sailing along and then people start diverging and going in different directions. But it is also very, very, very true and must be acknowledged that things happen that knock us off a life path, like a breakup, like a divorce, like somebody getting sick, like all kinds of things, natural disasters, right? Your house is gone and this is real. And to be able to think about who are my people now, who can relate to what I'm going through and how do I connect with them? And this can require some creativity. It can require some brainstorming, but it always requires some intention. There are many creative ways of creating a new community, but this is vitally important. And it starts with this new idea that we are always evolving and that a healthy community filled with relationships that fill us up, like it's not the same 5 flowers in the bouquet for our entire lives, is that we need to cultivate a garden that is diverse, that has all kinds of different people in it, so that we have points of connection with all sorts of different people for different reasons. And that it is really important to be putting energy into this throughout our lifespan. I am also starting to get to a stage in my life where I have had more than one close friend lose a partner to cancer, actually, and very traumatic, very unexpected, and we're still connected, and they are going through life experiences that I want to stay connected with them through, but they also need other types of people who are going through similar experiences, who know what it is like to be a single parent like this all of a sudden. There's a lot here. So the importance of continually cultivating community cannot be overstated. Wow, that was a lot of C words all in a row, wasn't it? Okay, anyway, I digress. So best practices here, think about who you are, think about who your air quote type of person is now, think about where you might connect with other people who have that same need, and be brave, initiate. It's okay. I say I am in a season of life where I am hoping to make some new connections and some new friends. And, this is where I am in my life now. I sense that you might be in the same place. Want to go bowling? That kind of thing is absolutely okay. But then also there is another idea that I just want to put in front of you, which is that it is okay to let some relationships go. Not that we need to be breaking up with people dramatically, but that there are some friendships that make sense to put a lot of energy into and nurture in each stage of life. And not every friendship is that way. There is an old saying of a friend for, oh gosh, well, actually, maybe the saying isn't entirely appropriate, but I'll put it in front of you. There's a friend for a season, a friend for a reason, and then some friends do last a lifetime, but that third category is far and few between. And for most people, there are chapters to friendships. And it is not that we need to be mad at somebody or stop talking to somebody or put them on the back burner in an aggressive way, but just release this attachment to needing to be as close to this person as you were 10 or 20 years ago. It's really okay. So if you have some mindset stuff related to that, that might be worth just challenging lightly as well. Now, lastly, how do we keep old friends without losing ourselves? And just to say out loud too, not every shifting relationship needs to end, and we don't need to be very dramatic about this, but there are ways to preserve what matters. The people who are really important to you, who are moving into different life experiences, without pretending that everything is the same, and also without putting a lot of pressure on relationships to be like they were in the past, because that can oftentimes be very counterintuitively, I don't want to use the word destructive to relationships. It can put a type of pressure on relationships that can paradoxically make it more difficult for those relationships to continue. And so one way is to change the way that you have a relationship with this old person. Maybe this is somebody that you used to go on a full day hike on Sunday, or you used to travel with, and they literally cannot do that with you anymore because of the, life space that they're in right now. It's okay. What else was your relationship based on? What were their other points of connection? Maybe you're still going on hikes, and send them a picture of the waterfall. I know that we can't do this as often anymore, but I wanted to let you know that I was thinking about you today. You would absolutely love this. And when more space opens up back up, maybe we can put this on the list of places to go and check out, right? Or, funny memes. I saw this today and it made me think about you. Or did you see this thing on the news? There are little light ways to maintain relationships that are different, right? And that still have some of the points of connection, but maybe not all of them. And it's also, I think, a phenomenal idea to acknowledge the difference. I know that our lives look different right now, but I still love talking to you. And are there good times for me just to call and catch up and see what those are? Maybe it's somebody who's driving home at the end of the day, or who is going for their walk, and turn it into some new rituals. I've had clients who have a standing thing on a Tuesday night to play video games together even, or, just little points of connection. I have an old friend and we talk on Sundays, and she's in her routine, I am in my routine. When our routines converge, we have the best time talking on the phone. And so different stages of life, but still just, talking about things, being each other's confidant. Maybe if we can't understand all of the experiences, we can still be there for each other in a way that feels positive and supportive throughout the lifespan. And also, you guys, this idea that there can be a convergence at the end of the story. Maybe you do have a friend who is up to their eyebrows in kids and minivans and jobs and things. And when everybody is 65, I don't know, if you keep in touch, there might be a renaissance. So it's just understanding that life is a river and there are splits and then things come back together again. And there can be a lot of wisdom to maintaining connections across the long haul. And this starts by working on ourselves, being aware of what's going on inside, but also developing these ways of staying connected to old friends while we are always continuing to make new ones. So that's what I got. I hope that this conversation was helpful for you today, especially if you're dealing with some of these things. And so thanks for spending this time with me. I would love to hear your takeaways from this episode and communicate with me. I have that Let's Talk link in the show notes here. Get in touch with me there. Let me know what you think. If you have follow-up questions, or if something sparked in your mind that you'd like to hear discussed on another episode, let me know. I would be so happy to do that and to connect with you. And also think about who else in your life could benefit from hearing this, and send it to them. We will make them be part of our community together. If you're not already connected with me by following the show, subscribing to the show, or whatever player you're connecting with now, do that. Get in touch with me on Instagram. We can hang out there too. And I will be back in touch next week with another episode of Love, Happiness, and Success.